Welcome to the Vault Studios NFL podcast, an Australian twist on all things NFL. The boys are cracking into a nice cold beer from Burnley Brewing. Let's join them.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the NFL podcast. I'm your host, JA, and I am joined by Richie, as always. No one cares. Hey, Rich, nice hat. Good on you,
hi,
mate.
James. Thanks.
Go Bucks. I'm joined by Richie, but first-time NFL podcaster, Kempe, star of the college football podcast. What do you guys call yourself? The Vault Studio College Football Podcast, I believe.
College Football Downunder, that's the one. Yep. I'm flying solo tonight, though. Will would normally be with us, but he reckons he's got a sick kid. I think he's hungover again. So,
he did go to the footy yesterday. He did tell me that, and he said he was in the box at the footy, and that he was going to be a bit dusty. And I guess it's just really painting a picture for us already that Will can't handle it.
100% correct.
He's second ranked on College Football Down Under, if you ask me. He's got a lot of work to do to get up to this.
It's not even in doubt, really, at this point. He just continues to lack the stamina to really, hang around there with the young bucks anymore, and he probably needs to think about just hanging the boots up, literally in the game of footy, but also in the drinking game. He's no good. That liver is absolute cactus at the moment, and he's at home licking his wounds, feeling sorry for himself.
Yeah, look, he said to me it was a sick kid, and I said, if it is a sick kid, good luck, because it is the worst. And then call me in 3 days when you're now sick from the same sickness your kids had, because that's all that happens, is it just gets passed around from person to person in your family for what feels like a month. I'm sure you can attest, Richie.
Yeah, all the time. Every other week.
And then it gets back to the kid again, and then just the cycle starts. So you just go like on a 3-week thing where you get sick one in every 3 weeks. So it's awesome. But Kempe, thank you for being here tonight, mate. We've obviously got a loaded draft show, with the draft being this Friday or Thursday night if you're in the States. Richie, I shouldn't fly past you. Legend of the Vault Studio NFL podcast. Bucks fan, like Kempe. How are you two going to handle just not talking only Bucks tonight?
It's the draft. We've only got one pick in the first round. It's the last pick. I'm not sure if you know, JA. If you win the Super Bowl, you have to pick last. It's kind of like a penalty for being so awesome. So it'll be easy not to talk Bucks because we got the last pick. So
yeah, you'll just pick up Nigel Harris with pick 32, and he'll just become a superstar.
Cool with me.
Before we get into the nitty-gritty, I want to thank our beautiful friends at Burnley Brewing. We did our monthly have you got one tonight? Oh, I've got to get some over to the boys in South Australia, to Kempe and Will. You are missing out, Kempe. These beers are fantastic. So thank you to our friends at Burnley Brewing. We do have a bit of a competition going at the moment, set up by Lewis. So if anything goes wrong with the link, please contact Lewis Glover at FF Down Under. His DMs are open, so just hit him up if there's a problem with the link, because he did it, not me, him. So hit him up. You join in. It's basically a draft pick 'em. You got to pick the picks in the draft. Whoever gets the most wins, and you'll win a box of beer. So it's really simple. It's a bit of fun on our live show on Friday, which will be going all day live on Friday. We'll be talking about it. We'll be bringing up the scoreboard. So get in there. I'll put a link in the description. And finally, our Patreon friends. This month's helmet, I know I didn't bring it last week. It's so shiny you can barely see. That is a Howie Long chrome Raiders helmet. Hall of Fame defensive end. Awesome lid. That's going to go to our Patreon fans in about 5 days, just after the draft. So if you want to get into that, go to our Patreon. Again, link below. Sign up. $10 a month gets you a chance to win one of them every month. And then the second prize is a box of beer and one of these awesome stubby holders from Burnley Brewing as well. I'll get the actual logo from Burnley Brewing. So you get a box as well on there. I said the beer's terrific. So win-win there. But that's enough sponsor talk. That's enough nitty-gritty. Let's get in topics. And Richie, Kempe, we've been waiting to talk about quarterbacks for weeks. Let's all start. I'll go to you first, Richie. Which quarterback do you like? Which one do you like? Out of the top 5 guys. Like, let's not get into deep stuff. Let's talk about Lawrence, Fields, the other one from Dakota, North Dakota Bison.
Trey Lance.
Lance Trey. Lunch Trey, I think his name is. The other white kid, Zach Wilson. And the kid who's not good but went to a really good school, so everyone thinks he's
Jones.
Good. Swapped it off to really good players. Let's talk about those 5. Who's your favourite, Rich?
if I was picking, I think I might. So I've tried to do as much prep work as I could for this. So I've watched a shitload of highlights. I've looked at a whole bunch of things. I've even watched a couple of games in full. But I think.
Oh, you're thinking this is big.
I think I like Zach Wilson the most.
What?
I actually think he is really good.
All right, Kempe, instant reaction to that, mate. I could see. Come on, hit us with it.
I just don't know how you go past Trevor Lawrence. Now, I like Zach Wilson. I was a big Zach Wilson guy. I think that he ran a really, really fun system at BYU, and they had a fantastic year last year where he got off to one of the most incredible starts offensively that we've seen since that LSU team, but certainly it was on par with them in terms of the yards they were putting up and the scoring. But Trevor Lawrence has to be the guy. I mean, you're talking about someone that was highly recruited, highly rated all the way through, and is probably on that Andrew Luck level of just talent. The whole he's very cerebral. He sees the field well. He goes through his progressions. He's tall. He's 6'6". He's athletic. He can move. Everyone remembers that touchdown in the semifinal against Ohio State when he ran down the sideline and was outrunning defensive backs. And so he's got the whole thing, and he's got the arm talent there as well. I just don't know how you go past Trevor Lawrence. And to me, he has to be the number one. And knowing full well, as I do rag on players, and I'm going to right here, knowing that with all these quarterbacks, and this is a quarterback-heavy draft, which is great if you're a team or you follow a team that's in need of a quarterback. But honestly, maybe two of these teams are going to be starting on their NFL team. One to two of these quarterbacks are going to be starting on their NFL team in 5 years' time. That's it. The rest are going to bust. So
that's what history tells us.
That's what history tells us. So to me, it's Trevor Lawrence. Lock it in, and I don't need to go anywhere else. I'm taking him the whole way, and everyone else is really you're wishing more than really banking on being the elite prospect that Trevor Lawrence is.
Who after that though? Who after Lawrence?
I do like Zach Wilson, but he's Sam Darnold 2.0. So I like how the Jets.
No way.
I like how the Jets.
Unfair.
I like how the Jets have
Sam Darnold. Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson.
No way.
He's athletic outside the pocket. He can make plays outside the pocket. I think he's inconsistent moving the ball downfield at times. I like Zach Wilson a lot. I just don't think he's going to be the one. And then it's pick your poison after that. Justin Fields has done some really good stuff. He's a big guy, big arm, extremely fast, can do it on the ground as well. And then Trey Lance, who probably sits somewhere between Jordan Love and Justin Fields. Doesn't have the arm talent of Justin Fields, is a pretty naturally good runner. Doesn't have the body size that Jordan Love does, and he probably sits between those two guys athletically. So I would take, in that order, Trevor Lawrence by a mile, Zach Wilson and Justin Fields, picking your poison, whichever one you like more there.
Richie, you think unfair Darnold 2.0?
Yeah, I do. I actually think that's really unfair. I think if Zach Wilson was in that draft, well, sorry, I was nearly going to say he'll be the number one pick, but of course he wouldn't because Mahomes would have been. But I think he would have been above.
Only knowing now, he would have been.
Well, no, it's not. There are plenty of pundits out there who did have Mahomes as the best QB in that draft. It's just once the media train gets going and they're set on somebody, no one has the balls to go anywhere different unless they're trying to make headlines or they're being super outrageous. But look, I really like Zach Wilson. I think some of the things I really like about him, it just seems effortless to him. His passing mechanics are exceptional. The ball just flies off his hand like he's really not trying that hard. And it's got tons of velocity on it, but when it needs it, he can really touch a ball in there as well. And he's a hell of a lot more athletic than Darnold is. But at the same time, he's going to the same place. Yeah. So life could be really hard. And as we always talk about, your landing spot is almost as important as anything else. When the Chargers took Herbert last year, and Jay, I remember you and I talking about it, like as it happened, he's going to land in a great spot. He's got some genuine weapons on the outside, and he's got a good enough O-line to have a reasonably successful rookie year. And as it turns out, he's rookie of the year. You look at Burrow, he has to go to Cincinnati where he didn't have any weapons on the outside,
But
and
he would
he had a crummy
been-
O-line.
If he didn't get hurt, he
he's-
could have been rookie of the year too. He did a good job.
Potentially. But with what was around him versus what was around Herbert, it kind of tells its tale. But, you know, be that as it may, because, you know, we're getting off track. I think the rest of the guys, I personally wouldn't want any of them if I have to draft them in the first round. I have no interest in any of them, only the first two. After that, forget it. If I'm picking in the first round, I need a quarterback, I'm not taking any of them. I would rather take someone like Kellen Mond out of Texas A&M, who has so many intangibles. He's the kind of guy who is going to be like your boy Dak JA. He was a really good player at a pretty crummy school on a pretty crummy team, playing SEC talent though. So just because guys aren't open all the time doesn't mean you can't take a guy like Kellen Mond in the third or even fourth round. I've seen him projected so low. This is a guy who lost one game last year. They should have been in the college football playoff. Fucking stupid Notre Dame gets in every year. It's a joke. Those idiots don't belong in it. This is a team that lost one game in the SEC going against SEC talent. This guy is really good. His receivers are crummy. They're not open. He's trying to thread it through the needle all the time. And he's an athletic guy. He's a leader. When he was coming out of high school, he was the number one dual threat quarterback. That talent hasn't gone anywhere. It's still there. And you're going to get him. I've seen him so low. I've seen quarterbacks like Kyle Trask ahead of him, Davis Mills out of Stanford ahead of him, like Jamie Newman out of Georgia ahead of him. Like, come on. These guys are all get out of here. You're going to get this guy so late, and he's a winner. I'd rather take a chance with him in the third or fourth round and see if it works out. Like, if Tampa can get him at the end of the third round, I would be stoked if they drafted him, because he's someone who is going to bring in all the talent in the world, and you're going to get him so cheap. He really reminds me of a Dak type of guy who can get it done, and he's so low.
The next Super Bowl winner. That's what he reminds you of. Best quarterback in the NFL.
I don't think they're going to have the fifth-year option him. That's for sure. But
Kellen Mond is the best player in the NFL. That's what you're basically saying. If he reminds you of that, so cool. Like, the next thing you're going to tell me is Nigel Harris reminds you of Zeke, the best running back in the NFL. So this is going great. I think we can all agree Lawrence is going number one. The Jags aren't even trying in this. He's going. I think we can all agree Zach Wilson's going too. Again, the Jets aren't even trying to smokescreen that. The big question is 3. The Niners moved up. There's all this talk about them taking the tackle. There's thoughts about them taking Kyle Pitts at 3. No one gives up that capital unless you're grabbing a quarterback. I find it really hard to believe it's going to be Mac Jones. I think they're throwing, some smoke screen. I think they're going to take Justin Fields, or stupidly, they're going to take Lunch Trey or Trey Lance. So I don't know. What is Kempe? What's your thoughts? Gut feeling 3. What do 49ers do?
Yeah, I think it has to be Justin Fields. So there's a couple of things here. I think firstly, I put a lot more stock into the guys that were ranked and I'm rated highly to start the year. I'm a little nervous about guys that shoot up draft boards late. Daniel Jones. But
yes.
And Zach, Trubisky. So Zach Wilson's one of those. Yeah, I'm always a little bit hesitant on those guys. Justin Fields is not one of them. Mac Jones certainly is. He was a placeholder until Bryce Young took over the starting job at Alabama next year. And he's found himself in a position to get drafted in the first round, which I just find absolutely ridiculous. The issue with the NFL is, like we said earlier, I think one of these guys goes on to become a really good quarterback. The rest of them are not going to be that good, but you have to keep taking swings. And to me, it has to be Justin Fields. I think the Niners have to go in that direction. It gives Shanahan something different at the quarterback position than he's had in the past in terms of a different skill set, which I think must be intriguing to him. I don't buy this other stuff. Around Mac Jones. I think it has to be Justin Fields, and And why not? Like he was the number 2 rated guy coming into the start of this college football season. So I believe you've got to go with him. And I think his weight of skill set and execution on the field and performance, he retains that lofty that status, and he'll go number 3.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think you give up that, because you know what? There's a chance that Mac Jones would have been there at 12 for them if they really wanted him.
Or 200, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. No, some idiot team's going to take him. Don't Detroit have a pick somewhere? They're going to blow that. No, they'll take not Kyle Pitts. They'll take another tight end.
Pitts will be gone.
Yeah, they'll take the non-athletic tight end that can just sit on their bench and do nothing for the next 4 years. I think we can all agree right now that whoever Detroit takes, career's over. Oh. So Tommy Tremble, the Notre Dame tight end, have fun going 9 to Detroit, mate. Enjoy your career. Let's move on to running back. Nigel Harris, obviously the one guy that gets talked about a lot, again out of Alabama, just to highlight even more how Mac Jones had the cream of the crop to throw to and around him. I could go into O-line, D-line, everything. It was all there. The guy out of Clemson, Travis, how do you say his last name? Edeni?
Etienne.
He's kind of talked about a bit. Who is, I guess the question is, and it's up on the screen, Nigel Harris, is he the cream of the crop? Richie,
the one word answer is yes.
Yeah.
Now, where you want to take him in the first round is different altogether. We always talk about quarterback failure rate in the first round. Running backs is even worse. People talk about, we'll get him, just ride him into the ground and rock and roll. These guys get released in their opening contract all the time. And there's really only 3 guys who've even been re-signed by their existing team. And that's your man, Zeke, the running back in Carolina, who I've gone completely blank on. McCaffrey. And there's one other. Like, these guys don't get to their second contract. They're taken in the first round. It's a real miss rate because you hit on guys in the second, like Chubb was taken in the second round by the Browns. I mean, I can give you a million running backs who are taken in the second, third, and fourth rounds. So is Nigel Harris the best? Yeah, he is. He's everything you want from a running back. He can do it all. But I wouldn't be drafting him unless I was in the real back end of the first round. If someone wants to jump up and take him, have at it.
Kempe?
100% agree. I think he's the best. We're lucky last year. There was a lot of good running backs probably at the top. This year, I mean, it's sort of Najee Harris and Travis Etienne. Now, I've never been particularly sold on Etienne. He's the better receiver out of the backfield. He has been asked to do it all. He's got breakaway speed. He's lively in the open field. But Najee Harris, there's just something about him. He can make dudes miss. He can hurdle. And he can take some punishment between the tackles as well. And that's something you're going to have to be able to do at times is, put your head in the hole and get 3 yards falling forwards. That's what the NFL is at times. So you've got to be able to do that. And that's where Najee Harris, to me, is streets ahead of the rest of the guys. There are some other big bodies as well that you can get later on that could be that better value that we'll just mention. In terms of Javonte Williams is a guy out of North Carolina. Kenny Gainwell out of Memphis who sat this year. And, the list goes on. And no doubt there'll be a 4th or a 5th rounder that jumps up and probably makes a Pro Bowl at some stage, who, again, finds himself in a favorable situation behind a good offensive line. And he'll go and play some good ball and make some yards. So the sneaky outsider that I'd say is Trey Sermon out of Ohio State. I think he could be a really, really good one.
And I'm just looking from landing spot point of view, like a guy like Najee Harris. If he could get himself, like Baltimore Ravens, who didn't have a first-round pick, now do, because I'm not sure if everyone knows they traded Orlando Brown, who was a really good tackle for them last year. He was a right tackle. When Stanley got hurt, they moved him to left tackle and did an outstanding job for them. This was a guy in the draft that was so unathletic that no one thought was going to make it as a tackle. Everyone thought he was going to be a guard, and he's turned into a really, a premier tackle in the NFL. They trade him to the Kansas City Chiefs. There was 4 picks involved, but the big one was pick 27 in this year's draft. That gets Baltimore Ravens back into play. I think if he could get to Baltimore at 27 or even Buffalo Bills at 30, like a team like that, I think Harris could have a massive effect in his first year. Richie, you can go.
Sorry, mate, I was being distracted by my dog's barking.
Look,
I think
Baltimore.
Yeah.
Or Buffalo.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add to it. I mean, I think we've both been, we're all pretty clear. Running backs, there's no value above pick 20, really.
Yeah, it's sad to see. Like they're just completely. There's no re-sign value and no.
Here's my wife of the year.
What is it?
That is a storm.
From where do you get a storm from?
I presume she stopped at Hungry Jack's on the way home.
That's a fake McFlurry, Richie.
Yeah, but you know what? It's bigger and cheaper.
Are
they a sponsor as well?
They
No,
should
they're a
be.
sponsor as well.
Actually, no, they probably shouldn't be. The amount we would eat would be disgusting.
Well, one of us would. One of us care about what goes in our mouth.
You still don't care. You just can't put as much as you used to.
Exactly. I love it. It's a business decision. Let's move on. Let's do some wide receiver talk. I think, I'm saying we can all agree a lot tonight because there's just so many like clear things in this draft. But the top three wide receivers, you've got Waddle, Devonta Smith, and Jamar Chase. These guys are kind of being talked about as the three dudes. Very similar last year with Ruggs, CD Lamb, and Jerry Jeudy. These three guys, two out of Alabama. Devonta Smith, and this is where my naivety about college football probably comes to the surface. How is Devonta Smith, who won a Heisman, and I watched some games last year of Devonta Smith. I don't watch a lot of college football, but he was pretty dynamic and outstanding, in particular in the championship game. How's he not the number one? That's what I want to know.
Because he's little.
Is that the problem?
Yeah. The NFL is scared he'll break. Like that's. Yeah. I think there's a lot of nods going on, so I presume everyone's on the same page. They're just worried they won't get him for an entire career. That is probably the only concern. He's electric with the ball in his hands, but he's small. He measured out like at 165 pounds or something?
He's 6 foot 70 pounds.
Yeah, that is a little dude for college, let alone the NFL. And he's a special kind of talent. But if I had to pull the trigger on the first wide receiver, I don't know if I could pull it on him.
I definitely would. I am a massive, massive Devonta Smith fan. I know that you want the 6'5" Julio Jones, AJ Green, Mike Evans. That's who you're after. That guy doesn't exist in this draft, I guess. And I just think not early, no. I think Devonta Smith to me has just got it all. Like he's small, he's undersized. That's been a knock on him coming out of high school. And he is an elite route runner. And I think that's the difference between him and Ruggs or Hollywood Brown a couple of years ago, who are just those, they run the 9 route really well. Cool. You've got a go route. He can actually run all of it he can play on the outside. He can play on the inside. I'm not going to doubt this dude. I have doubted guys in the past, and I'm giving him all the benefit of any kind of question mark whatsoever. He, to me, is better than Jamar Chase and far better than Jalen Waddle. I think he's probably on par with CD Lamb as a prospect from last year in terms of a talent set. So give me Devonta Smith all day.
And what, I guess, because then you talk about Jamar Chase and he's kind of the belle of the ball at the moment, which is, it's bound to change. Like, when do Oakland pick? I'm sure they'll take a small, fast wide receiver. But Jamar Chase, and I've watched a bit of his tape too, he doesn't blow me away with his physicality and his athleticism and his size. Like, he's bigger than them. Like, he's 6 foot, 200 pounds. So 30 pounds on Devonta Smith, which is a lot. It's, for the Australians, it's about 16 kilos. So he's a lot bigger. And these guys aren't like fat. This is like 16 kilos of muscle. They're not fat guys. So he's a lot bigger. But his tape didn't blow me away with contested catches and physicality and stuff like that. A bit more than Smith. But I don't know. You guys kind of answered the question for me and helped me feel better about Devonta Smith, because I just think you look at him and you're like, his tape absolutely pops when you watch him. It pops off the screen. So whereas Faces was good and Waddles was good, but not as good as Smith for me.
The biggest thing with this draft is the quarterbacks have become the story because there's so many of them, highly rated and are expected to be drafted in the first round. This receiver class, I'm telling you, it's deeper than last year's. It is going to be remembered as a better class than last year come the end of it. The depth in this draft is exceptional. Like, you can start writing down the list. 5 guys like, Terrence Marshall, the other receiver out of LSU. He is such a good player as well. And you're going to pick him up, I don't know, somewhere late in the second, maybe even third round.
Remember, if one on receivers, these guys will start to go, just like last year as well. As soon as the
probably
runs,
will.
They'll be dropping up.
There are plenty of them. If you end up with, Rondale Moore out of Purdue or
Kempe loves
Bateman out of Minnesota, if you end up with those guys, you're going to be fine. Like the receiver depth is just going to continue and continue and continue because of the way football's played now at lower levels. 10 years ago, kids would be playing in pro backs with eye sets. They play wing T at college, all these different systems where they throw it a handful of times a game. All of Texas, all of Florida, all of California, all run spread, 4 receivers on the field all the time, maybe a tight end if they've got one, and they are just flinging it all the time. It's how football's played at the lower levels, and this is coming through. There's just a huge depth of receivers, and, I'm not saying some of these guys I'm keen to take in the first round, but there is so much value at receiver. That being said, I got no issues. If anyone takes Chase, Waddle, or Smith anywhere in the top 10, I'll be like, cool, you're going to have fun watching that guy. Like, they're all going to be good players on your team, just like the top ones were last year, except for Jerry Jeudy, because
not his fault.
He had a rough start. They so need a quarterback, and there is not one in this draft for them. But the rest are all, you can see it. You can already see it. And receiver is going to be the richest position, just, I think, for years, the way the game is played now.
Yeah, and I want to talk Rondale Moore because he's kind of one that gets brought up a lot as a dark horse. I remember listening to the podcast, the college football podcast the other week, Kempe. You're not a fan of Rondale Moore. You weren't a fan of a lot of guys, but you certainly weren't a fan of Rondale Moore.
He's a small Devonta Smith and not as talented.
I'm a massive fan of Rondale Moore, the college guy. I remember him playing and almost single-handedly beating the number 2 team in the country, Ohio State, when they did that massive upset. And he, was a do-it-all guy. He can do it out of the backfield. Think Percy Harvin, but a little chunkier, I suppose. I guess in this draft, you've got guys that can do a little bit of everything. So whichever direction that you want to head, you can do that. If you want a small speed guy like a Rondale Moore or a Tutu Atwell out of Louisville, then there's that option there for you. He's fast and dynamic with the ball in his hands. You've got, a crisper route runner, but a smaller guy, Elijah Moore out of Ole Miss, who just continues to produce a real production guy. Terrace Marshall is a big dude. You've got Trevon Grimes out of Florida, who hasn't... 5-star guy coming out of high school, hasn't really lived up to it. Rashad Bateman, who was mentioned earlier out of Minnesota, could be a really good number 1 guy as well. I think he's the sneaky number 1 guy for me. So I do agree in that if you're a team looking for a quarterback and there's a particular skill set that you want, you'll be able to find it in this draft. Absolutely, no questions asked. Is there the guys that are going to be like CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy? I don't know. Devonta Smith maybe, but I don't put Jamar Chase in that upper echelon with those guys just because I think he was a guy that was a product of a system that worked really, really well and 3 elite receivers on the same team. Will he be successful? Yeah, sure, he will. But I don't put him up there as, someone who's going to go on and become an out-and-out number 1 wide receiver for 10 years in the league. It's just, to me, I don't see it.
Also, the sneaky dark one, JA, if you want an absolute monster on your team who you just want to throw jump ball fades to, chuck the tape on and have a look at Tamarion Terry out of Florida State. The dude's a giant. He's not particularly talented. Sorry, that's so rude. Yes, he's an extremely good football player. I don't think he's got the NFL level of talent that he needs.
I'm going to quote it up and tweet it to him.
Just chuck him on. He's fucking giant. He's massive.
I'm a big Tamarion Terry guy. I think he could be another good one. Legitimately, I think he's okay. I think Florida State are a mess at the moment, so I think that was more of the issue.
It looks like a left tackle.
He's a giant. He's fun. You'll love it.
He's good.
But you'll get him on day 3. I don't think he'll go before that. So, and that's what I'm talking about. There's tons of depth. Like, it's a good receiver class.
And the best name in the draft potentially in our name rankings, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Definitely the best wide receiver name. If I'd find,
I like Tutu Atwell as well. I think that's a great name.
That's good, but Amon-Ra sounds like it's something. I think that was the name of the bad guy in The Mummy. I'm fairly sure.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it's an Egyptian god. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he does. But perfect guy at USC too. I hope he's doing film studies as well. That would be awesome.
He would be. The other guy, quickly, it's not wide receivers, but we have to talk about Kyle Pitts, Pitt, whatever you want to call him, the tight end of the draft. Haven't seen him block a soul in any film I've watched yet. He just outruns everyone.
Then you need to search for his blocking. There's a good blocking tape on him.
I have to look up a bit harder on him. A lot of people have him penciled in to go to Atlanta. Most people, he's not getting past Miami at 6. That's the speculation. They've pretty much said we're taking him if he gets there. He's dynamic. He's tall. He's got the biggest wingspan in something like 15 years or ever, even as a like just pure receiver. Kempe, I know you're a huge fan of him, and I want you to tell me why he's going to be so successful for any team that drafts him.
I love tight ends. I played tight end. It's my favorite position. I think if you've got a good tight end, they're weapons.
Hold on. You guys got to stop. So you're telling me you two are both Tampa Bay fans, and you both play tight end.
Yeah.
So you're just basically Kempe's just the red-headed Garraway. That's what I'm working at. South Australia. You're South Australian Garraway.
Less kids as well, apparently.
Less kids. Well, Richie's he's 40 now, so he was a bit of a late bloomer too. You never know.
Yeah, I'm done.
You could be 21.
I wish. Man, I am aging horribly.
Sorry, continue about Kyle Pitts.
Just like I am so washed up that like standing doing the dishes makes my back sore these days. So I am no good. But like I'm so skeptical of tight ends. Everyone wants a tight end. They all want Gronk. They all want Jimmy Graham. They all want this game-changing freak at that wire position. Kyle Pitts isn't it. He's a wide receiver. Like that's what he does. He's not going to inline block very well for you. He's not Kittle. He's not just going to murk dudes in the run game. That's not happening. He's not Travis Kelce. He's going to be a flex tight end. You might as well put a wide receiver designation next to his name. I'm just skeptical of tight ends taken early. That very few of them in recent years have gone on to do anything of any note in that position. So if you want to call him a wide receiver, then I'd listen. But if you're calling him a tight end and you're expecting him to block 260-pound defensive ends, he's going to have a very short career.
Just, and you did say like prospects like in the last few years. I think the big one that gets brought up a lot is TJ Hawkinson at Detroit, who, if you actually watch TJ Hawkinson, he's a very good football player. He plays on a disgusting team, a crap organization. No one watches Detroit unless your team's playing them and you want to watch just them beat up on some bad football teams. No one cares about him. He put together a good season. Is he that elite receiving tight end? No, he's not. And should have they taken him number 8 that year? Absolutely not. It was a terrible pick. At 20, they should have taken him. But then, other guys you talk about, OJ Howard, I can remember when the Bucks took him a couple of years ago. I thought that was the best pick in the draft. I was this guy's going to be a superstar. Hayden Hurst now he's at the, where is he now? Baltimore now? No, he's drafted by Baltimore. I can't even tell you where he is now. He's been traded 3 times, I'm pretty sure. So the thing, the best guy the last few years as a receiving tight end has probably been Dallas Goedert, who went in the second round for the Eagles. So it is a hard position to draft well. Every now and again, these guys come along that are just the next best thing. Kyle Pitts, I'm fairly certain he's going to go 4 to the Atlanta Falcons unless they really surprise us. I think if he's to go to the Atlanta Falcons, it probably, if he's only half of what people think he is, he'll be incredibly productive because you put him into that offense, he's going to be outstanding. They're going to feed him. It's going to be very hard to cover them all with Julio Jones. Calvin Ridley, who had an outstanding year last year and went quite under the radar because he was on a bad team. That offense, that is kind of the best situation for him. I think if he goes to Miami or to Cincinnati, where he becomes instantly the guy, that would be a terrible fit for him because I think teams will be able to shut him down. And purely just by not letting him release off the ball. NFL players are faster, they're bigger, they're stronger. You can't just pick on college guys because you're the biggest and the fastest. The NFL guys are all going to compete with you in that area. Will he be, successful? Maybe, but I'm way less likely. So I want him at 4. It's a good fit, but I'm with you, Kempe. I'm real skeptical. It's a lot riskier pick than I think people. It's not a layup at all. Rich, you like Pitts, don't you? Or you're the same?
Oh, don't get me wrong. He's arguably the best tween that ever come out. But I agree. I actually don't like him that high at 4. I think they're taking because they're kind of being told to. Like everyone in the media is saying, you got to. What you guys said earlier is right. He's not a particularly good blocking tight end. I mean, if you're a blocking tight end, go get Tommy Trimble. Like he's without question the best blocking tight end
in the second round. Go get him in the second round. Like that's what I mean. You can get guys that can get value there.
Yeah. If you need a tight end that blocks in your system, get him. If you run a 2 or 3 tight end system where you need a receiving one as well, there's your man. Like he could potentially be the best at it. But even at Florida, he only lined up at a true Y something like 15% of the time, and he blocks okay, but he's a giant playing college football, so I would expect him to.
He blocks okay in college. What do you think when he set up and put a D end over the top of him and he's got to seal off a defensive end? There's not many tight ends that can do it, but I tell you what, if I'm taking a Y and you want a genuine Y, which is what everyone wants in the NFL, it's what you're looking for out of your tight end. If you're taking that at 4, shit, I want to see him block some DNs in college really well. I want to see him dominate. Go back and watch Jason Witten's film from Tennessee. Watch him blocking defensive ends in college. Now, he was nowhere near the athlete, don't get me wrong, but that's how you play 18 years in the NFL at tight end. Watch Tony Gonzalez. Nowhere near as good a blocker as Witten, Gronkowski, as other guys. Watch him in college. He murdered guys. He was murdering guys as a genuine tight end.
The thing that Kyle Pitts creates for you is matchup problems.
Exactly.
So you bring him into your team and you're Atlanta. You've got 2 really good receivers outside him, and then you got him on the field. So you're not really doubling anybody because you really can't afford to with the other 2 guys on the field. So that's what you're getting him for. You're getting him for matchup issues. He's outstanding down the middle of the field. He does a lot of work in there, and he has great hands. He goes up and gets everything. And
his
I think
receiving film is outstanding. I'm not going to it's outstanding. It's just, and I guess this is why scouts get paid a lot of money. I don't know how it's going to transfer to the NFL. That's what I'm just so worried about.
If I was an offensive coordinator, I'd like to find out. Let's just say.
Yeah, certainly. Whoever takes him, I don't know how it's going to work out, but I'm excited to see how it's going to work out. Like, it's going to be fun. It was like when the Cowboys took Ezekiel Elliott, Richie, you were like, you hate running backs in the first round. I said, no, this is a terrible pick, but fuck, it's fun. Like, this is going to be a fun ride. Like, this is going to be the worst thing they ever did or terrific, and it's somewhere in between right now, but man, it's been some exciting years watching Ezekiel Elliott. So sometimes you want your team to be fun, and I think if you're Atlanta or Miami or the Bengals and they take this guy, I think taking Penei Sewell's probably the better pick, the safer pick for someone like the Bengals and Miami, certainly. But, it'd be fun. It'd be hard to pass up, certainly. And that's kind of a good segue into O-line with JA. I know you guys, I can't tell you how hard I laughed when you and Will were in the latest podcast. Said, should we talk offensive line? And your response was, why? That was it. I felt like it was a direct shot at me, like just a straight up shot. It probably wasn't.
No, we didn't have your expertise in the game, so we just thought, you know what, let's not sell ourselves short here, and let's not discredit the people that know what they're talking about. So we'll just let you have your 30 seconds of fame here, mate. You can take it away.
There's only one guy. everyone talking Rashawn Slater, he's the number one. Christian Darrisaw. There's a bit of hype around Alex Leatherwood at the moment out of Bama. Of course, there's hype around a Bama player, a Bama offensive lineman. Penei Sewell is the guy. And when you're looking at top prospects, right? And I'm no scout, I'm no expert, but what you look at is measurables and production. Does it match? Is it level? If their top picks have both. Lower picks might only have one. They might have elite production, but crap measurables, or the opposite. They might have like really bad production, but their measurables are through the roof. So they get accelerated up the board because of those measurables, because coaches go, well, he's an athlete. I can make him a good football player. Penei Sewell meets both them. I know he didn't play at all last year, but he's just, it doesn't matter. If he could have gone in the draft last year, he would have gone in the top 10. He's the best tackle in this draft. It's not even close. In no world does he get past Cincinnati Bengals. There's no chance. I am that certain about this pick. They are going to take him at 5. There's no doubt about it. The only thing that can stop it is if Atlanta shock everyone and take him at 4, which I don't think they will. There's more chance they take a quarterback. But he's not getting past the Bengals. If he does by any chance, I'll be shocked. And then I think Miami and Detroit will be sitting there going, oh my God, is this guy really going to fall to us? Hopefully Detroit don't get him and ruin his career and make me look like an idiot for this. But I don't want to talk about much more. Sewell's the guy, and everyone else is second to him. And I'm not going to have any argument about it. And I could be wrong with that. That's the way it looks right now.
I can give you the thing about offensive line and the first round in the draft, their bust rate, like the bust rate for first round.
Not that bad.
Tackles.
Depends what you class a bust.
Using the same metrics I tend to use for most of those things, it's super low. Funnily enough, it's the lowest for guards. Guards draft in the first round almost always tend to work out. Their all-pro rate is insane. It's ridiculously high. It's the highest by miles.
Nelson, he's spiked.
Well, he's one of, but hey, plenty have. I think out of the first round guards that have been picked in the last 10 years, I think there's 8. I think 6 of them have been all pros. So a massive result. But either way, it's safe, and they have got a hell of a quarterback from what we saw last year, standing back there. They've
got to protect him.
They got to protect him
now. And then they can roll Jonah Williams, who out of Alabama a couple of years ago hurt his rookie year. I know a lot of guys said he wasn't good and he's not going to be. He wasn't bad last year. He was coming back from injury. It was his rookie year, and he was coming back from a serious knee injury. Yeah. Give the guy a go. Move him to right tackle and see how he goes there. If you hit on Sewell, which I think anyone who takes him is going to, and then Jonah Williams goes to right tackle and becomes a Pro Bowl caliber right tackle, those two positions can change the way you do things on offense straight away. So, and I've always said you've only got 5 guys for the O-line, right? If you improve one of those positions with Sewell, and the perfect example is the Cleveland Browns last year. The perfect example is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You improve one of those spots, it trickles through the rest of the team because you can move guys to adjust. You can move, whatever your starting left tackle was last year, you can shift him inside and improve another position. You can do lots of things. And, you talk about bust, Richie. It's a great story. A guy named Robert Gallery. He went to the Oakland Raiders about
number 3 pick overall.
He was a tackle, came out. He is classed as one of the worst O-line busts. Do you know how many years he started in the NFL at right guard?
Probably 15.
11. He was an 11-year starter.
Off by 3.
This is the thing with O-line. Yeah, was that the right? No, it was a terrible pick. He wasn't what they thought he was going to be. Eric Fisher's another prime example, the number 1 overall pick. He's been starting ever since the day he got drafted. He only just got cut because of injuries. He could have been a 2-time Super Bowl winner. So, you look at guys who bust. There's not many Luke Jokels that just after 4 years aren't in the NFL anymore as linemen because they kind of make it work. So, and that's the Jaguars. They're about the only guys that can draft a bust at left guard. So, well done, Jaguars. Let's move on. That's enough O-line talk. I'll save that for mine and Robert May's private podcast that he won't let me release. Let's talk a bit of defensive line value. From what I can tell, this is one of the worst graded line drafts for a long time.
Miles.
There's normally a ton of defensive ends that are ready to go in the first round. D tackle's not as much. There's always an Alabama D tackle, normally 2. There is Christian Barmore this year, who's very good. But when you have a situation like this, what's the move? Because there's not a lot of value. Are you going to reach on one early just to get the guy you want? That's kind of my what. Kempe, what do you reckon?
Well, it's an interesting one because this is one of the positions in the NFL that is so highly prized. You've obviously got quarterback, wide receiver, cornerback, and then it's defensive end. Now, we know there's a massive shortage of offensive linemen, and that's why they always get taken. And every team's always after offensive linemen because there's just not enough of them. And defensive end, it's tough. I mean, you've got this kind of a bit like the wide receivers in terms of the fact that there's a fair few guys. Yeah, they don't grade out particularly well necessarily, but they're all a little bit different. Like if you want a 3-4 guy, edge rusher, you can find that. If you want a 3-4 defensive end, you've got that. If you want, your 4-3 traditional end that plays more like a 7 tech, then you're gonna have that guy as well, or that true strong and weak defensive lineman. So you do have some ability. I think you wait. I think you go and get your skill position guy. You go and get your quarterback, obviously, if you're swinging at that. And I think you just simmer on the defensive ends, and then you find the one that you're after, and then you go after that guy. Where if it's Quiddy Pay out of Michigan, if it's Micah Parsons, who'll probably play as an edge rusher, I think, depending on where he lands, but he may be more of an outside backer, but an off the ball guy. But I think he probably plays as an on ball kind of edge rusher type. If you want a bigger bodied high motor, maybe you go Jalen Phillips. There's a whole bunch of different things, but I think you've just got to be disciplined, sit and wait. And like Richie said, do not reach, continue to stack good players, because if you get an 11-year starter at guard who you pick at number 7, that's better than picking a defensive end who's out of the league in 3 years.
Yeah, 100%. As you said, you're better off getting a low-end starting lineman, offensive lineman, than striking out completely. Can I talk about one guy I find his story really incredible, and I think he's the best edge in the draft, and it's Jalen Phillips. And I know you're a Miami guy, Kempe. His story's insane. So he played for UCLA for 2 years, but no fault of his own, got hit by a car while on his scooter, then suffered concussions, retired from football, had a year off, came back, played for Miami, had a really, really good year, 15 and a half tackles for loss. Just outstanding, just really good, solid year. Then decided not to play. Did he play this year? No, he didn't.
Yeah, he did. He did play. He was an interesting one because he actually just hated the sport at one point. When he was at UCLA, he's a West Coast guy originally, number 1 recruit in the country actually, and then came through on a transfer to Miami. He's a big, long dude. I am not super sold on him. I don't think there's no Chase Young. There's no Bosa. He's not that elite twitchy guy. He's got a bit of everything. He can hold up. He can set an edge against the run. He's good against the run. He's got a high motor, which is, what he keeps getting known for. He's fast enough, and he's got enough in the pass rush game. I think he's going to be a slow starter, though. He's not going to me, he doesn't jump off the tape like actually his running mate in Greg Rousseau does. I'm a little hesitant on Jalen Phillips. He's more polished than Gregory Rousseau.
Everyone likes about him. He's super NFL ready. If you listen to
but I think he will struggle to adjust, I think, early, though, because I just don't think he's got that elite step that you see guys that come out as those high-rated defensive ends that can just get away with speed rushing early in their careers a little bit. Yeah. And I don't think he's going to be able to do that. So whilst I want him to be successful, I don't think he's not going to go and get you 12, 15 sacks a year. I think if he winds up as an 8 to 10 sacks a year guy, I think that's probably about where he's at.
I've got a real good, I guess, kind of dark horse, and one that you should know a bit about as well. I think he's going to be, exceptional. Well, not exceptional. I think he's going to be very, very high value. Quincy Roche, out of Miami. He's going to probably go late second round. I think it'd be very good value as, just a pure, as you talked about before, one of those guys with a quick step, pure edge rusher. I think he could be a guy there that fits that spot and could be great value.
Yeah, came from Temple originally, another transfer to Miami, but set all kind of records and was an all AAC, all American conference guy there, and played a year and probably didn't have his best year, but yeah, another really bit smaller but quicker first step. Yeah, he looks like a good piece as well, and he's probably going to line up as more your traditional kind of 4-3 weak side kind of guy, and he should be able to do some damage. I think, again, he's going to be a serviceable kind of defensive end, but unfortunately for him, he doesn't do anything super well. And as a result, he'll be in the league and he'll play well. But, again, if you can get, 200 to 300 snaps out of him in a season and, kind of a handful of sacks, I think you'd be happy with that. But, his ceiling to me is somewhat limited.
Yeah, and that's why I think his value is going to be there, because he could potentially be a third-round pick. I think someone's going to get a real, maybe not a superstar, maybe like he has a couple of Pro Bowl seasons in a 10-year career, like he just bobs up and has a good year production-wise. But I think, he could be value and be a good starter in the NFL for a 10-year career sort of thing. That's where I see him. So the value's there. Talking linebackers for a second. Micah Parsons, I feel like every year there's this elite athlete that plays linebacker. Isaiah Simmons was last year. Every year there's a guy. Every year he just doesn't kind of live up to what the hype is. And I'm a big Isaiah Simmons fan. I think he can still get it going if they can work out how to use him. But when a team's going to get scared of these guys? Because they haven't worked out very much the last few years.
Who do you want to take it? I mean, I don't like Micah Parsons high. I wouldn't have too many qualms taking him towards the end of the first round, but I think if I was top half, 15,
he's going to go top 15.
If I was a team in there, I think there's other players who would have graded out higher than him. I like the guy at Notre Dame who I'm not even going to attempt to try and say his name. So I know I'm going
to. I know how to say it because I watched. Did you watch Brett Coleman?
Yes.
Yes. He changed my mind on him, and then I wanted to go watch him more. He is like, if he gets in the right situation, this guy could be defensive player of the year next year.
He needs to land on the right team, but his ability to stay on the field versus 10 personnel.
It's a Wusu Koromoa. It's not as hard to say as what you think it is. That's why when you read it, you're like, Manoa. How many H's are there? There's 7 M's. It's just Owusu Koromoa. That's it. It's like Ndamukong Suh. You just got to roll it off.
His ability to run with slot receivers is incredible. He has an amazing turn of speed. He can take him down the seam. He can get outside the hashes, outside the numbers even. I've seen him do. He's a special kind of guy. And when he comes downhill, you don't really want to meet him because he's going to lay you out. So what he can bring a modern NFL defense, being able to stay on the field, particularly on passing downs, is something not many linebackers in the current NFL have. NFL teams are in nickel just a crazy amount of the time now, to the point where you may as well start calling nickel the base defense because they're in it so often.
It's 77% of the time as an average through the league. They're in because no one who plays 2 running backs. Teams play 2 tight ends, but often the second tight end is a Kyle Pitts he's a receiver. He's a receiver that's going to move and motion and create mismatch. So can't play 3 banger linebackers against it and be like, run the ball at us, because teams will go, okay, that's super athletic tight end. You just seam one and make that linebacker chase him every time. So it's, I really like him. I think he's good.
If obviously
I think he'll be around the late teens too.
Yeah, it's hard to predict where he's going to land because he obviously needs to be in the right. It's the biggest thing with defensive guys, and I thought you explained it awesome earlier when you're talking about if you need a 3 tech or a five tech or whatever your defense plays and what it's in its base most of the time. You got to go get these guys. You can't go grabbing someone who plays on the outside and said, yeah, he'll just play 3 technique for us. You can't do that to people. It's the same for drafting a right tackle and go, oh, we'll just play him at left guard. He'll be right. Like it's so different. It's completely different. And if he's not comfortable, he's not gonna play very well. So you've got to get guys playing to their strength. If a guy has played 3 technique his entire career and you need a 3 technique and he's graded out highest on your board, cool, grab him, awesome. But don't go taking a 1 or a 5 and saying, we'll just play him at 3 because he graded highest. That's a terrible draft pick. And that's the worst way to construct a team. So there's some really good linebackers in this class for the right people. And they land in the right places, they'll be awesome. Like people like Devin White, who weren't highly touted, he landed in the right system. Now he did come on as well, but he's in the right system for him.
And playing next to who's your other linebacker?
Lavonte David.
Lavonte David.
One of the most underrated players in the NFL. Having that guy, and then the biggest human being in the history of the world in Vita Vea, and then Ndamukong Suh's. I'm not sure if you know, Ndamukong Suh's a pretty good inside defender. Like a lot of people don't understand how fucking good he is. Like, and he's 15 years in the NFL already. Like,
because he's not pulling stats.
Yeah, it's all about value. It's all about where you fit for a lot of these guys. Just quickly, I want to have a bit of a cornerback dart throw. Patrick Surtain is the guy everyone's talking about. He is the most NFL. A lot of the Daniel Jeremiah, I've heard him say this guy's the most NFL ready guy he's seen, and that's what's terrifying about him, because if it doesn't work, I am getting the biggest Morris Claiborne flashbacks in my life. I can remember Morris Claiborne, everyone going, he's tall, he's fast, he is so good with his hands, doesn't give away penalties, he is so NFL ready. This guy, his ceiling is going to be an all-pro. His floor is going to be an all-pro. This guy is the best corner we've seen in 15 years. He does everything an NFL corner needs to do. And then him getting there and then realizing, shit, he can't run. Fuck. We should have seen if he could run with NFL players because they're going to get around him. I know Surtain's a good athlete, but that's the fear with this guy. And that's why I love what Daniel Jeremiah said. He goes, I've never seen a guy more NFL ready, and that is what is terrifying. The Cowboys are the hot ticket to get this guy. I can't see the Detroit taking another swing on a corner after the Okuda incident from last year, which doesn't look good at the moment. Kempe, what do you reckon? Surtain, you like him?
No, I'm not a big Patrick Surtain guy. I mean, I followed his recruiting because, again, he was coming out of Louisiana originally, and Miami were in the race for him, but ended up at Alabama. He doesn't have the elite long speed that you perhaps want. I don't know who's Dallas's other cornerback. Like, is he going to play the number 2 position at corner?
No. Oh, they've got Trayvon Diggs. Yeah, Trevon Diggs.
Okay.
Trevon Diggs' younger brother, who I ragged on last year, but shit, he came on strong. He's kind of that elite, and he played on the number 1s all last year.
Okay.
I think he'll be that second guy, and they'll use him. Like this guy, he's very NFL ready, but I think it's very dependent on. Like the Cowboys have had terrible luck with early corners.
Yeah,
most teams, no one gets them. They're not that good normally.
Well, Morris Claiborne could barely spell his own name, so I think that was also part of the problem.
Help.
But
it was a knock on him.
Remember the Wonderlic test days when they used to? Do they still do that? And when they used to talk about the Wonderlic test all the time, be like,
they don't do it anymore.
Who cares? Yeah, that's probably why. But Hargraves, the Bucks took a couple of years ago.
Yeah, Hargraves.
Claiborne now,
terrible.
Or someone. He hasn't even finished his rookie contract yet, and he's off your team.
I'm not coming back to Pat Surtain. Yeah. I'm nervous about him. I think he's better as like a zone defender type. I think that long speed, he's going to get caught out of fraction. But he, very fluid, moves well, sees the game well. He's going to be a good player. If he's going to play on the number 2 and he can play, I know they don't do it so much at the NFL level like they do in college in terms of he played that boundary corner position for Alabama, and in the NFL he'll be expected to cover some more grass at some stage. So that would be, I think, if you could work him a little bit if you've got a real deep threat. But yeah, he should be a really good one. But for me, it's JC Horn out of South Carolina. He is fast
Love
guy.
that guy.
He's the number one corner for me. I'd take him pretty high, actually. I think I'd take him over Micah Parsons. So go the Cox.
Yeah, I tend to agree there. I think the value in this draft is kind of getting muddied a little bit because of the quarterbacks at the front. Like, we're probably going to get 4
They're
quarterbacks
screwing it all up.
Picks, and it's great for anyone who doesn't need a quarterback. It's why Carolina just traded for Sam Darnold to buy him time, because they know the value now. Their pick at 7 or 8 has so much value now because Detroit are going to fuck it up. We know that for a fact. No matter who they take, they're a bust. So you just forget about them. And I find it funny we're talking about Patrick Surtain. Do you know what NFL.com have his NFL comparison?
His dad?
No, his dad was outstanding.
that would have been
Nandi Asamoah. You know what happened to Nandi Asamoah when he left and went into a scheme that didn't suit him? He was out of the NFL in 2 years after signing the biggest contract in the history of the NFL at cornerback. He went from the Raiders, where he was an all-pro, like Darrelle Revis and him were the 2 guys you talked about, and then went to the Eagles and was out of the league within 2 years. That's how big people realize this guy can't play unless he's in cover 3. That is my fear with Patrick Surtain, and the fact that everyone. I hope. Look, if the Cowboys took him, I'd be like, okay, I'm willing to see this ride. But I tell you, I have serious PTSD from the Morris Claiborne. I bought his jersey. I was like, this guy's going to be the next history of his guy's going to be the greatest corner. He's the next Terrence Newman. He's my guy. Like, he wasn't.
The issue.
Oh my God.
I'm not a huge fan of Alabama corners because of the defense they play.
Yeah, because their front is normally outstanding, and they're normally up by 40 points.
Yeah, but they also, as we talked a little bit before, the field corner, the boundary corner, the pattern matching that they do, the coverage they run behind that. It's an interesting scheme, and a handful of other schools run it too. Like TCU, my school, run a lot of it as well. But for some reason, our corners seem to come out and be okay. Alabama corners have just. Sure, there are good ones, of course, but they've missed more often than they've hit. And I like a guy who's had to chase around the number one guy all over the field, and it's probably why we all like Horn, because he plays in the SEC. He's got to go up against these guys every single week, and he follows them around the field.
Yep.
Yeah, he's always constantly challenged.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Corners are so hard though. They're except we talked about rates. Their rate for bust has got to be fairly high. And some of them take time too. Like, with bad mouthing Morris Claiborne, he ended up playing about 8 years after the Cowboys cut him after 2. He went and was a solid guy for some teams, bad teams. He was a solid corner for bad football teams. So he just shouldn't have been the top 5 pick and that sort of stuff. But, we talked about Humphreys. There's plenty of guys that fail. But then if you hit on one, if Patrick Surtain is the next Jalen Ramsey, like we saw what he did for the Jaguars when he played for them. He changed the way that they went to an AFC championship game 4 years ago. Like they just lost to the Patriots to go to a Super Bowl with Blake Bortles as their starting quarterback, their defense. So I know Calais Campbell and all these guys made a big difference up front, but Jalen Ramsey was a big part of that. So that's what everyone's trying to hit. Like you talk about Detroit last year, Okudah was one of the safest picks in the draft. Now, he was a bit banged up, but, as I said, anyone Detroit takes just seems to be a bust, especially in the early, top 10. So I don't know. I like JC Horn. I'm glad we're all kind of on the JC Horn train because I'll happily go down with that ship over backing Patrick Surtain. I think I'm more comfortable going down with that ship. I'll happily just sink.
I'm concerned about a couple of things here for you, Jay. Just very quickly, your love affair with Morris Claiborne and just hitching yourself to that wagon was interesting. But I think you're also potentially a closet lover of the Detroit Lions. You have brought them up multiple times, and I really think you're leaning into, maybe Jared Goff is your next guy. Maybe you can just get really excited about that.
Big fan of Jared Goff, actually. I've actually never been negative about him in any way on this show. Certainly when he had that Pro Bowl year, I thought he was very deserving. It wasn't just a system they created around him and then Sean McVay telling him what to do before the snap. No, I can't stand Detroit. I think they are the biggest loser organization in the history of sport almost. It makes me laugh when people say they're Detroit fans. I'm sorry, Detroit. It must suck being a Detroit fan. But I just honestly look back at their last few first-round picks. They just never hit on anything. Calvin Johnson was the last. It's like they paid for making Calvin Johnson sit on that team for 12 years before he retired, like 7 years before he needed to, just to get away from that team.
Charlie Batch was okay. He was all right.
Charlie Batch, who was the quarterback they had? The big white guy. I've forgotten his name. Someone was talking about him on a podcast this week. Harrington, Joey Harrington. Do you remember Joey Harrington? I think he was a first-round pick too. I'll just run through their last few. So Jeff Okuda was last year. TJ Hawkinson, solid. Frank Ragnow, who I believe plays for
committing to this.
Jared Davis, who I believe now plays for someone else. Taylor Decker, who I'm certain now plays for someone else. Laken Tomlinson was terrible for them, then goes to the 49ers and now has been a 3-year starting guard. Eric Ebron definitely plays for someone else. Ezekiel Unzar definitely plays for someone else. Riley Reif, out of the NFL. Nick Fairley. Do we all remember Nick Fairley?
He was an angry man.
Who was the most dominant interior lineman in college. Yep. Turns out when you go to Detroit, you suck. Their last good pick was Ndamukong Suh, which is a 2010. That's 10 years without a good first-round pick. Anyway, I don't love Detroit. Maybe deep down inside, I have a feeling. I think I just feel sorry for them. I want them just to nail one for once in their life. Quickly, last thing before we finish up. A guy, doesn't have to be a first-round pick. A guy, I'll start with you, Kempe. What player just fits a team? Or you don't want me to start with you?
I can quickly make something up. I don't really know. I was trying to have a think about this, and I was looking through, and I was like, who's going where? And I actually don't know that I've got one. I think that going to San Francisco for Justin Fields and Kyle Shanahan. I know that's not a natural fit, probably in terms of what he's had in the past, but I think that bodes really well for Justin Fields, and I think it gives Shanahan a really interesting weapon that he can use to run off that zone running scheme that his old boy perfected, and he's now done such a good job of as well. And I think maybe that one, but I'm at a real stretch there. I really struggled, so I'll definitely handball this one.
Richie, have you got one, or do you want me to go?
I got a few for you, actually.
Yes. Hit me. This
Trayvon Morey.
Now, Kempe. This isn't your area.
Nah.
Trayvon Morey, TCU, safety. Love him. Adarius Washington, TCU, another safety. He's pretty good.
Where do they fit? Where at?
Anywhere you like. Garrett Wallow, another TCU guy, linebacker.
So just to reiterate, you don't
really
have
good.
They really fit on. You just think they'll fit anywhere they go.
Another one, Wells, TCU, tight end.
As long as they're a Horned Frog, apparently.
It's taken me a second to get this. You really like TCU. Oh, fair enough. I've got one, Tevin Jenkins. If a lot of you wouldn't have heard of this guy, he's an
Oklahoma State.
Out of Oklahoma State.
Yep.
Animal. He is an animal. He does not look like he should be able to kill you with his bare hands, but he is a big, strong. He may play guard in the NFL. And the fit I have for him is the New England Patriots. And I don't think it'll be the first round, may not even be the second round. But if that guy lands at a squad like that with Skarnecki teaching him, he has all those physical traits and he's gone completely under the radar. I think he'd be a great fit. The other guy, Mac Jones at the New Orleans Saints. Sit for a year, let Taysom Hill and Winston battle it out. Sit for a year. And
never get there.
I don't think he will. I don't think he'll get to 28. But hey, maybe at 15 he's not gone yet, and New Orleans go, well, or at 14 and New Orleans go, hey, Minnesota, give us your pick.
He'll be gone at 3.
Oh, 3. Wow.
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it, but that's where he'll be gone.
I might have a walkout. We might have to have a walkout this year again, Rich. Be five years running. So every year someone I say before the draft, Kempe, there's no way this guy's going to do this. If they do this, I'm walking out. And then they started with Mitch Trubisky, which was even funnier because they traded up one spot to get him. And then the 49ers trumped them by taking Solomon Thomas, ruining that. Look, that's going to be it for us tonight. A bit of a longer show than normal. Oh, it's not 109, Rich. That's not too bad.
The goal is always a hidden hour.
We're not too bad. Like, we had Kempe, we had to...
Sorry, I do get sidetracked. And can I just quickly say, before we do wrap it up, I know fucking nothing about the draft as well. Like, I'd sit here and I pretend like I know what I'm talking about, and I've watched a lot of college football. Reality is, I'm only going to remember the 1 to 2 things that I got right here, and the 70,000 that I predicted incorrectly will just disappear off into the ether, never to be heard from ever again.
But just remember that who's the Raiders GM that I'm having a complete... Mike Mayock? Just remember, he was paid by the NFL for over a decade to be the draft guru, and his first 2 years, he's reached for Cleveland Ferrell and reached for Henry Ruggs. So I guess what I'm trying to say is no one knows what the fuck they're doing. All you... Patrick Mahomes wouldn't go 12, and you know who's to blame for that? Cliff Kingsbury, because he couldn't win a college championship with Patrick Mahomes. I just sit back and think, how? So Cliff Kingsbury fucked that.
Because you know nothing about college football.
No, they should have won it. Patrick Mahomes is the best player in the NFL. But yeah, anyway, Richie loves college football. So what I was going to say is, Kempe, now that you've met Richie and Richie's met, you got to get Richie on the college football podcast to talk some shit.
Definitely.
He will just disagree with everything you guys have to say because he loves college and loves disagreeing. So it'll be great. You can hate on players. Richie can hate on players. Will can try and keep it all together and just glue it back till it'll be, oh no, I like him. Just to fuel the fire. But Kempe, thank you, mate. I know you're not going to be on the live stream Friday because you've got to work, don't you?
Yeah, mate. These 2 weeks of school holidays that I've just had, really, they've just come to an end, and I'm not happy about it, I've got to admit. But I do need to go back to the factory tomorrow and deal with the future generations of this country, which obviously I'm excited about.
That's terrifying that you're molding the young minds of our future. South Australia. Very dark place. Now, Richie, I know you'll be on the live stream Friday. So, guys, as we do every year or for the past, 5 or 6, I think it's about 5 years now, Rich, we've been doing it. We'll be streaming not streaming the draft. We'll be having a live stream while the draft happens. We'll be talking takeaways. If you want to get involved, join the live stream. If you want to get involved a bit more and have some interaction, join our pick'em competition. As I said, you win a box of beer. It's a no-brainer for me. It takes literally, even if you just hit the next guy, you'll probably have just as good a chance of winning. If you just go off NFL.com rankings, you'll have just as good a chance of beating someone like Lewis, who probably spent 7 hours trying to analyze the numbers to get it right. So you'll just do it, and you can win a free box of beer. Enter in. It's pretty cool. And then on the day, we'll show the leaderboard as the picks go, and it'll be a bit of fun, so interactive. Thank you to our awesome friends at Burnley Brewing. That is the box of beer you get. All our patrons that have a chance of winning this awesome helmet, Howie Long, signed Chrome Raiders helmet. Get around it. And boys, thank you for being here, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much. Mate.